Yeah, you tuned into the right place. Welcome to the rain. Golden Queuing. H2.0. Yeah. You're looking for a diamond, found a treasure in the rough. Tired of all the noise, cause you finally had enough. I'm here to build a movement on a mission for the nation. Dropping gems of knowledge, killing all the hesitation. We fighting for the truth, yeah, we fighting for what's right. Building unity and shining up a brand new light. It's a variety channel, but the vision's crystal clear. Pushing us all forward, conquering the doubt and fear. Welcome to the Queendom, it's 2.0 on your screen, where the content's real and smart and funny in between. This is more than just a stream, it's a platform for the change. Time to elevate the game and rearrange. If you're ready for a vibe that you can feel and trust, joining in the movement is a definite must. This ain't just another channel talking smack behind the screen. It's a spotlight for the creators, building up a better scene. Spreading radical love, that's the message in the code. Helping everybody carry up a heavy load. From social justice issues to the laughter that we need. Planting seeds of progress, watch them grow from just a seed. This is authentic, this is raw, this is everything you saw. Welcome to the battle that is truly being fought. Ooh, so come with your respect and see the real effect. Cause I protect my own right here on the throne. Don't make me envy. Unleash the dragon. Subscribe, ring that notification bell. Yeah, you don't wanna miss a thing. Welcome to the family. Yeah. Yeah. They try to bury the truth on the paper stacks. What they make still bleeds, and the streets talk back. Turn the volume up. This ain't entertainment. This is evidence. Yeah. This is evidence. 3 million pages that ain't rumor, that's weight. Names in the margin, money still in the fate. Silicone smile, sanitized, private plane, same island, same silence, different last names. Files so thick they can't shred them all. Every no comment, just a crack in the wall. They say conspiracy, now it's case numbers. Truth don't age, just waits longer. Gold gaze, dark flights, offshore sins. Everybody clean to the paperwork instant. They thought time would erase the stain, but justice patient and the files remain. Receipts on the table, yeah, the lies on trial. Can't outrun truth, only stall a little while. They tried to mute us, tried to draw red lines, but the people woke up. This is headline time. Receipts on the table, yeah, the system shake. Every locked door tremble when the real ones speak. No feeling of fame, no scripted design. We don't go the truth, we take our lead. Put cuffs on a voice for covering pain. Camera rolling still, they screaming restrain. Anti-ICE protest, truth in the frame. Better all fear when the message don't tame. So just doing your job till the job hit nerve. Ask court dates for what we observe. Pushing them in peak, but a race in the street. When the badge get nervous every time we speak. We say there won't be silence, that's not a quote. That's a warning flare in a sinking boat. Free press ain't free when the cost is jail, but the mic stay lit even when they fail. Receipts on the table, yeah, the lies on trial. Can't outrun truth, only stall it a while. They tried to mute us, tried to draw red lines, but the people woke up to this headline time. Receipts on the table, yeah, the system shake. Every locked door tremble when the real ones speak. No filter slave, just break inside. No filter change, we take right now. We take God tweeting while the truth gets thin. Every nigga email us, emails clean. While it's parties, yeah, the timestamp loud. Lyrics on the glare, still talking right now. That's the G, pour the chapter, now on repeat. But the inbox don't lie when the mouth say beat. You can launch your body by the whole square. Still can't outrun questions floating in the air. This ain't cancel culture, this accountability. Same rules for the rich, that's stability. You can't in a bet your way out the best when the receipts got screenshots built to last. MAGA cracking like ice underweight when loyalty bends and ambition debates. Caught a miscalculation, now watch the divide. Moments see themselves when truth on the line. Bad lies to the cover blown wide. Now it's knives in the back, cameras on watching now. Every lie told shaky, wanna be with fair cry. No savers, no king, no smoke, no shrine. Just truth in the open under real time light. Receipts on the table, let it echo wide. From the streets, ace trains, they can't hide. No cousins, it's real time alive. This is trending news, I'm a clip at a time. They call it chaos when the truth arrives. But order built on lies was never a lie. So keep the vibes on, but keep the cameras rolling. And never apologize for asking questions.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl Golden. I'm back with another video, y'all. We got a few more things to get into, y'all know, around politics mostly. But we got some pop culture we're going to be talking about in this live as well. So I hope everybody is having a good day. It is about 1:16 p.m. here Eastern time in the Carolinas in the United States. And it's been raining again, but it's pretty decent day outside. It is pretty bright, so that always lifts my spirits. I hope you guys are having a good day in whatever respectful time zone you're in, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I hope you're having a happy Sunday. We got a few things to get into, y'all. So let me go ahead and give y'all a brief synopsis of what we'll be talking about on this live. So as we can see, there's been a series of massive breaking stories and exclusive reports that a lot of the mainstream media is scrambling to cover. Now, one of the first things I wanted to talk about, and we're going to get into, is this nasty work from Speaker Mike Johnson on the brink of Black History Month and Reverend Jesse Jackson no longer being with us and passing away. Speaker Mike Johnson sparks outrage by refusing to allow civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson to lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol. Is this a matter of precedent or is it a political insult? We also have to talk about the MAGA meltdown. Rumors are swirling that Donald Trump is ready to pull the plug on Speaker Mike Johnson's job. We look at the karma. Catch up for MAGA Mike. Also, we got to talk about the security breach at Mar-a-Lago. Breaking news as an armed man is unalived by Pow Pow by the Secret Service at President Trump's Florida estate. We have the latest from the FBI press conference. We also will be talking about Elon Musk and his Jesus meltdown, to a major update from Epstein victim's lawyer on the next moves to take down these powerful figures. And our final video that we will be showing is a little bit of conversation from Jay Manuel. He dropped a bombshell about Tyra Banks and the real reason he was fired from America's Next Top Model. So starting off with Mike Johnson and Reverend Jesse Jackson in the Capitol honor. Major controversy in D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson has officially denied the request for the late and great Reverend Jesse Jackson to lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Jackson's family and several House Democrats made the request following the civil rights leader's passing at age 84. Johnson's office is citing past precedent, claiming the honor is typically reserved for military and government officials. However, critics are calling it a slap in the face and an insult to millions, pointing out that private citizens like Rosa Parks and Billy Graham were granted the same honor. It is about rules, or is it about political statement at this point? So, per usual, y'all, let's go ahead and get into this video. I'm going to show y'all exactly what was said on the news reportings, and we also have some words from Roland Martin as well. So let's go ahead and get into that. What nasty work. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen for y'all so y'all can see exactly what we're talking about. Give me just a second to get everything set up. All right, here we go. Let me take this down. The StreamYard is moving kind of slow today, also. I do apologize. All right, let me go ahead and put this up here. Let's watch together, and I'll meet y'all in the chat per usual.
Days of tributes honoring the life of civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson. On Saturday in New York, the National Action Network hosted a special tribute where MS Now host and president of NAN, Reverend Al Sharpton, honored Reverend Jackson's extraordinary legacy with a nod to his iconic 1988 Democratic Convention speech.
Jesse, we won't let you down. Jesse, we won't leave the battlefield. Jesse, we won't turn back. Jesse, we won't bow down. Jesse, we won't give in. Jesse, we won't turn around. We come too far. We spent too many nights in jail. We cried too many tears. We gonna keep hope alive.
Joining us now is that man himself, host of Politics Nation and president of the National Action Network, Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al, thank you for coming on. When we talk about the changes, the impact that Reverend Jesse Jackson made on this country, obviously 1984 and 1988, those presidential runs are at the top of the list. When he was doing that, did he understand the changes that he was making to the country as it was happening?
I think he understood the possibilities if he succeeded, like when he changed the proportional delegates rules in the Democratic convention and the primary process. It was where before he changed those rules, whoever won a primary got all of the delegates. Yeah. He said that if a runner-up got a certain amount of delegates, they should maintain those delegates and the winner get their delegates, which led to being able to see candidates that didn't win big states could still win the nomination. Barack Obama lost several big states, but he had enough delegates in the bank due to those delegate rules being changed by Jesse Jackson. He knew what could happen. And that's what made him so unusual, because he took the risk when there was no guarantees. The same when he would address corporate America and say that we need to have these kinds of inclusion strategies. He knew it could happen. We didn't know when we were boycotting or marching on people what would happen. We knew it could happen. And I think that's what Reverend Jackson mastered more than anyone I've known. The possibilities are there, so you just need the faith and the hope to go and try and make it happen.
You know, Rev, in the New York Times on Tuesday, there's a terrific story with the headline, "Jackson's death arrives at a crucial moment for Black political power." And in it, the reporters write, "We are witnessing right now in real time the kind of attack on voting rights that really does harken back to the darkest days of the civil rights struggle." Senator Raphael Warnock said on Tuesday, "I owe it to Reverend Jackson, and we owe it to the next generation to pass voting rights and ensure that we level the playing field so that every voice can be heard in our democracy." Now, the voting rights. But another big legacy of Reverend Jackson's is, as a result of his run, we then, for president in 1984 and 88, we then saw a slew of Black people being elected to office, whether it's mayors, state legislatures around the country.
That's correct. And it didn't happen just by some magic. It happened because in 84 and 88, Reverend Jackson was able to bring out new voters and get them registered. So when you look at Virginia with Doug Wilder, when you in 89, and when you look at David Dinkins in 89 in New York, Jesse Jackson won the city of New York. He lost the state, but he won the city of New York by registering voters in 88. Those voters came back the next year and elected the first black mayor. That's just one of many examples. So there was always a practical and a countable things that Reverend Jackson wanted. He didn't want to just leave it up in the air. He used to say, we have to have real concrete victories, all of which is now at stake, because when he started, he went to Selma, Alabama as a student, hearing the call of Dr. King after the beatings on the Edmund Pettus Bridge when FCLC and SNCC were doing the marches for voting rights. He started in Selma. I was blessed last year to be with him when he went across that bridge the last time now in his life in a wheelchair, wheeled by Jonathan Jackson, a member of Congress, his son, and Maxine Waters and I wheeled him across. So his whole history was voting rights. Well, now Section 2 is undecided by the Supreme Court. That's at stake. When we look at the ending of DEI policies by the Trump administration, and Reverend Jackson, head of Operation Breadbasket, the NATO push, dealt with economic equity in the corporate world. That's at stake. So in many ways, I hear him saying, and he did say to me in his last days when he could speak, that we did our job. Now y'all have to maintain what we've won and then gain. And our challenge is, can we even maintain what was already on the table?
It's really such a trip to be watching all that B-roll as you're talking and know that you were alongside him during so many of those really seminal moments. But Rev, I want to ask you for your reaction to some of the news this week that Speaker Mike Johnson denied the request from Jesse Jackson's family to lie in honor in the Capitol. What's your response to that?
I think that if I think the rationale the speaker said is precedent, but they broke precedent and had Billy Graham lay there. And they should have, because he was a spiritual leader that really made a difference in terms of the religious life of many millions of Americans. Rosa Parks laid there as an exception. Jesse Jackson.
We have the list, if our team can pull that up, of the 8 people who have lain in honor, and they were private citizens.
So I think Jesse Jackson belongs on that list. He brought millions of Americans into a hope in this country that they could achieve things that were unachievable before them. And if there was anyone in our time that deserved that exception, it would have been Jesse Jackson. And I think that by denying that was not an insult to who stood by him 65 years, strongest woman I've seen. It wasn't an insult to them. It was an insult to the millions of Americans across the rainbow, white, black, Asian, and others, that found hope in him. I met him when I was 12 years old. I became his youth director in New York under Reverend William Jones at 13. I was in the hood on welfare. He taught me I was somebody. We did not just discover legislation with him. We discovered hope and possibilities and our potential in him. And that should have been crystallized by him laying at state in the nation's capital.
Rev, he did so much. We've talked about his impact, but his passing also comes at this kind of renewed debates and conversation in this country over voting rights, which you guys all fought for, representation, Black political power and the importance of that, the Rainbow Coalition that you just referenced. Is this a moment of, I don't know, resilience or vulnerability for Black political power in this country? What do you see the future as?
I think it's a question of whether we will see ourselves vulnerable, but I think that it is also a test of our resilience, because I can remember many times I would get frustrated fighting a racial profiling case or a police brutality case, and I'd say, Reverend Jackson, this is real bad, this is crazy, these people are inflexible. And he'd look at me like I was crazy and say, well, look at what we had to go through. I was born at the back of the bus. I couldn't use the public library. First time I was arrested out 1960 for trying to use the public library in Greenville, South Carolina, my hometown. And y'all are complaining about things that are more easy. Y'all got social media to work with. We had a pay phone and a dial-up phone, a rotary phone on the wall. So he would never allow us to have excuses. And I'm saying today, we should not use excuses. We should use the Jesse Jacksons and the John Lewises, back to Dr. King, as our motivation, not as our memories.
And Rev, on that point, I want to put up a picture, because yesterday would have been the birthday of now the late Congressman John Lewis. This is a picture I took on March 4th, 2018, during the Faith and Politics pilgrimage, the annual pilgrimage that Congressman Lewis would lead to Selma. The person in green is Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who's the Congresswoman for Selma. And right behind her is then Senator Kamala Harris. But here you have John Lewis and Jesse Jackson together, two icons of the movement who are now no longer with us. Just real fast, because we're out of time. Just your last thoughts on those two great men, but especially Reverend Jackson.
Reverend Jackson and John Lewis were 13 years younger than Dr. King. They were the young part of his generation and passed to our generation. I'm 12 years younger than them and dealing with younger activists. Our job is to keep the chain from being unbroken, to preserve voting rights, to preserve civil rights, to preserve the coalition. We had two giants, and I was there when both of them walked across that bridge at the last time. We should not make their going across that bridge in vain, because they could have lived different lives. They didn't, to better our lives. We have got to pick up the baton and hold on.
Reverend Al Sharpton, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and very personal insights.
All right, y'all. So I thought that was a wonderful conversation amongst the panel, especially from Reverend Jackson, who did spend a lot of personal time with, Al Sharpton, who spent a lot of personal time with Reverend Jackson. But now I'm going to go ahead and play the second video, y'all. We got Roland Martin. You know how Roland Martin is, y'all. He's going to keep it real. So he has a lot to say about this as well. This will be our final video for this segment. After we move past this, we'll be getting into MAGA Mike. And apparently, I guess he is getting fired. We shall see. Anyway, let's go ahead and hear a little bit from Roland, and we'll be right back.
House Speaker Mike Johnson declined the request by Democrats for Reverend Jesse Jackson seeking to lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Now, keep in mind, there's only 4 times in American history that citizens have lied in honor. Now, an official lies in state, citizens lie in honor. Rosa Parks was the first, Billy Graham was the second, and the 2 cops who died in the aftermath of January 6th, they also got that honor as well. In terms of politicians, black politicians, former Congressman Elijah Cummings was first, Congressman John Lewis was second, Congressman Cummings lied in honor in Statuary Hall. Lewis, they happened during COVID, so they had him on the East Steps because he was initially supposed to be in the Capitol Rotunda, but he was in the East Steps of the Capitol. So media has been reporting it left and right, but the reality is I broke it last night. I got a source who told me that, and I got it confirmed on Capitol Hill as well. And keep in mind that these Republicans, Donald Trump lowered the flags in this country, lowered to have staff in honor of Charlie Kirk. A lot of people have been commenting on social media, Charlie Kirk did not lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol. The flags were lowered. Trump has made no such declaration. And you have this going on right here. Let me know we got the panel back. I'm going to get them to weigh in here. I mean, the reality is, so this is what Speaker Johnson said. They claim they really went back to the old rules that only presidents, the honor of lying in state or lying in honor is only reserved for former presidents who pass away. But the reality is leadership can change whatever rule they want to. Democrats did that. They made other exceptions. And so those things have happened. But that was the decision that was made. And so been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter on social media about how the Republicans are, frankly, not properly acknowledging the contributions of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. But there's no shock to me that they would do this, that they would not honor Reverend Jackson in this way, because he was a thorn in their heel. But in the reality is that they're not going to go above partisanship at all. And so you got that going on. Also, keep in mind, we told you last night we had Congressman Jonathan Jackson on the show. And so the funeral plans of Reverend Jackson have been released. They're still affirming up. So we're still waiting to get the details of when he's going to lie in state at the South Carolina Capitol and what's going to be happening here in Washington, D.C. But he will be lying in state at Rainbow Push in Chicago on Friday, February 27th. And then, of course, the following week, March 4th, March 5th. Then on March 6th, you're going to have the People's Celebration taking place at the House of Hope in Chicago. That's where all of the dignitaries and the main speakers, former presidents, are going to be. And on March 7th, there's going to be a private funeral taking place at Rainbow Push as well. So that's what's going on there. And so do we have Matt, Michael, and Winkuni back? Okay. So Winkuni, so we got you there. Just want to get your thoughts on the Republicans not granting Democrats their request to have Reverend Jackson lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol.
Honestly, Roland, I think it's just another explanation of how bipartisan, how nonpartisan this House has become. It's really, really scary when you're pushing this hyper-partisanness to a level where people can't even respect people who have worked their entire career for equality in this country. And I think it's just another exemplification of the fact that the Republican Party is not the Republican Party that we've known it to be historically. I think now we've seen it turn into a party of white supremacists. And although some people may contest that that's what it was before, I think we used to see there was an era of a more moderate Republican. I think now what we're seeing in the Republican Party is a lot of people that are, uncloaked, as I would colloquially put it. And so they are really, really less of Republicans and more of people that are aligning with this MAGA party. And so I think when we're thinking more so about the Republican of today's era, this doesn't actually surprise me, but it is a slap in the face to Jesse Jackson. It's a slap in the face to all of the things that he's accomplished over the years. It's a slap in the face to Black America. But quite frankly, I think that's exactly what it's intended as.
Well, of course it is. And so this is what we have long expected. And so, those things happen.
All right, y'all. So after that segment, we have reached like the 30-minute mark now. So I'm just going to take a quick song break. And after we come back from the song break, we're going to get into MAGA Mike. And we'll be hearing from none other than Ben Masilis over on the Midas Touch. And MAGA Mike seems to be in terror as Trump is taking away his job. So we will be getting into that. Y'all let me know what y'all think of that. Could it possibly be karma? Anyway, let's take this quick song break and we'll be right back.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let it ring out loud. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea, like the mighty waters. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. We remember it all. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Hope is alive, yeah. Facing the rising sun of our new day
All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get into this next topic for the live that we'll be talking about. So beyond, Mike Johnson and the nasty work with Reverend Jesse Jackson, my personal opinion, he's also in terror because Trump could be just taking his job. So the heat is on MAGA Mike Johnson. Reports are surfacing that Speaker Johnson is in a state of terror as Donald Trump is reportedly considering a change in leadership. Despite Johnson's efforts to align with the MAGA agenda, including plotting mega bills for a second term, insiders suggest Trump is unhappy with his performance. Some are calling this karma for Johnson's struggle to keep his caucus in line. We're watching to see if the speaker is on the verge of losing the gavel. Let's go ahead and hear a little bit from Ben as he reports this story for us, and I will meet y'all in the chat.
MAGA Mike Johnson, the worst Speaker of the House in American history. Frankly, a Speaker of the House in name only, a Trump sycophant. And MAGA Mike Johnson, MAGA leadership in both the House and in the Senate are panicking as they see the prospects of them losing their jobs increasing by the day as midterms approach. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are unable to cover up the Epstein files. I mean, they may be hiding 50 terabytes or so of documents, but the American people know that what's already been produced is utterly grotesque and horrific. And MAGA Mike and Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans can try to pretend that Donald Trump is vindicated, but quite the contrary. What is said about him in those files is utterly disgusting and grotesque and horrible. And it shows a pedo protection racket, in my opinion, for this Epstein class right there. Then, of course, you have Donald Trump's tariffs against the world being struck down by the United States Supreme Court on Friday. And then what does Donald Trump immediately do? He unlawfully invokes another so-called tariff power from the Trade Act of 1974, Section 122. Donald Trump imposed 10% tariffs on the entire world. And then he also revoked the exemption on de minimis tariffs, tariffing everybody who purchases things now $800 or less. Vindictive, horrible, despicable. That sums up Trump and MAGA right now. Now, MAGA Mike Johnson posted the following message yesterday. He goes, "No one can deny that President's use of tariffs has brought in billions of dollars and created immense leverage for America's trade strategy and for securing strong, reciprocal, America first trade agreements with countries that had been taking advantage of American workers for decades. Congress and the administration will determine the best path forward in the coming weeks." You might want to read the Constitution there, MAGA Mike. There's a little something called Article 1, Section 8, which talks about the power of taxation belongs to Congress. You're supposed to zealously guard that as a co-equal branch of government. MAGA Mike, not behave like the Duma in Russia for Vladimir Putin. But MAGA Mike, this is why you are going to lose your job. This is why the MAGA Republicans are going to lose their jobs in the midterms. And the voters are absolutely pissed. I mean, just take a listen to this Republican caller on C-SPAN yesterday who talks about Donald Trump's massive loss before the United States Supreme Court.
Paul in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, Republican. Paul, your reaction to the Supreme Court's decision on the president's tariff policies?
Well, I'm delighted.
Tell us why.
I think it's about time that President Trump was told that he just can't arbitrarily say that there's an emergency and I have to be the one to cure it. And I think that I'm happy to see that it was a 6-3 decision, and it shows me that there is hope for the Supreme Court in the future.
And we're hearing from small business owners like this across the country. Play this clip.
The president just ruled that, the Supreme Court just ruled that the president can no longer impose tariffs moving forward. How do you feel about this?
Well, I was bracing for the worst, and to get that, the ruling today was such a relief. I nearly in tears. I'm shocked at how relieved I am. This is big. It's very big.
That's fantastic.
And as Harry Enton explains, Donald Trump is underwater on every single issue. His worst issue is the Epstein files, but on everything, whether it's inflation, foreign policy, the economy, tariffs, -60, -20, -20, -25, -39. Here, play this clip of Harry Enton. Here, play this clip.
ABE, anything but Epstein. Take a look at Google searches for Epstein. In fact, in the month of February, it is higher than it's ever been. Up like a rocket, up 900% versus a month ago. And the top name associated with Googling for Epstein, well, it is Donald Trump. What is the worst issue for Donald Trump of any of the major issues? Look, he's underwater on immigration, foreign policy, the economy, and tariffs. The Epstein case, though, is on another planet. Look at this. -39 points. The Epstein case is not the story the Trump administration and Trump in particular and Republicans at large want in the news because it is a big political loser.
But here's the latest. A third American death linked to ICE crackdown that was uncovered by Newsweek on the morning of March 15, 2025. You had another American citizen who was murdered by Donald Trump's Gestapo. They covered it up. And now we know yet again that the Trump regime, this is what they do. They cover up more killings, more murders of Americans and migrants. Just so, again, utterly despicable. San Antonio, a man was killed last year, and they just try to cover it up. With all that going on as well, I just think that as I look to the midterms, and people talk about blue wave, blue tsunami, is it going to happen? But I think that there is something bigger that potentially can happen, a bigger opportunity for the Democratic Party to be actually fighting for people, to be fighting for workers, to be fighting for equal rights and dignity and fair wages and housing, and really stand for something, not just stand against Donald Trump and his despicable regime, which we need to do very forcefully, but to stand for something and to really give a vision. And I actually think that vision is aligned with where the people are right now. And so I want to bring on a congressional candidate who's running in California's 11th congressional district. That's going to be Pelosi's old district, Shoykat Chakrabarti. And he, to me, is one of these candidates who doesn't just represent potential way the Democrats take control of the House, because what does control mean if you don't do things with your control? Like MAGA Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't have control other than destroy things and answer to Donald Trump. So Shoykat, it's great to have you here. I want to go over your background in a bit, but I want to start by saying I think there's a bigger opportunity, and lots of people see hope in you and a number of other candidates across this country as representing that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think what people are looking for right now is, yes, in the short term, we do need people who are going to stand up and fight this authoritarian regime that is taking control of our country, and they want Democrats with real fight. But beyond that, it's about what do we do after that? We can't go back to a pre-Trump status quo because that's what got us Trump. The economy as it was before wasn't working. Working people were working longer and longer hours to afford less and less. And so people want some sort of bold, sweeping change. And I believe right now we're in our New Deal moment. We're at the point where we have to envision a new society, one that puts working people first. And it's all really coming to a head. I mean, with a combination of like the Epstein files coming out, showing how there is this cabal of wealthy elite pedophiles running the world, which is absurd, but it's true, it seems like. But at the same time, you have AI popping up and these tech oligarchs and crypto billionaires gobbling up more and more of the wealth in our society and trying to create a permanent underclass. People do not want this Mad Max dystopian future. And I think we as Democrats have to offer the alternative for how do we actually create something way better than what we had before out of the carnage that we see right now.
You saw this, right? You were, for everyone who doesn't know, you were AOC's campaign manager. You were her chief of staff through about 2019. Then you ran New Consensus. So you've been embedded in these types of campaigns, speaking to people, seeing on the front lines what it's like. And it's just so fascinating to me. And this is what Senator Sanders always says to me when he comes on the show, is he goes, Ben, the biggest issues out there are the ones that are being least discussed in the media, but most discussed by the people. Like if you go to a Fight the Oligarchy rally, if I go to a rally, you hear what the people are saying. it's just fascinating. This is where, where our network came along. I'm like, but we realize that everybody's actually talking about these things, not these things. And so the people are out there saying these things at your rally, their fear of AI, their hatred of these data centers popping up and stealing their energy. These fears are out there, and I think we got to channel it and harness it in a way that provides solutions.
Yeah, and I think the thing that the Democrats often miss is these fears and challenges. People recognize that they're huge. They're these big country-defining, era-defining problems. And often the Democratic Party wants to try to figure out how to triangulate and say the exact right thing to different populations. But what people are really craving, and this is what I'm seeing in my campaign, is people want to hear ideas that are as big as the problems that you want to tackle. So, when it comes to something like AI, the regulations that politicians, most politicians aren't even talking about other than Bernie Sanders, but the regulations most politicians are proposing, everyone knows they're way too small, and they're not going to tackle this challenge of something that might wipe out half of all our jobs or wipe out humanity itself, right? So we have to be talking about the future of the country in a way that scales. And I think it honestly is forcing this bigger conversation about what is our country for? What is our economy for? What are the values we have as a nation? The right actually has that conversation. They have their view of what direction to take this country. And I think on the Democratic side, we don't grapple with those larger philosophical questions, but we have to present big ideas, bold ideas. And that's something that the party sometimes just seems too scared to do.
I think right now, with everything we're seeing, as you mentioned, with the Epstein files, seeing the sex trafficking ring, but seeing the cover up and the cabal and all of these people in the files, with Epstein as the middleman playing, basically master of the universe. And whether it's propping up a Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, leading Brexit in the UK, knowing about the annexation of Crimea beforehand, seemingly insider trading on crypto and proposing crypto strategies to Vladimir Putin. These people were puppeteering behind the scenes the destruction that frankly led to Trump, but viewing it just as Trump to me is myopic and is small. This is manifest, frankly, internationally with Nigel Farage, with Orban in Hungary, with Milei in Argentina. There are broader forces to me that are sweeping the world, and broader forces need to exist to fight back against it. Otherwise, I'm like, you're bringing a butter knife to an F-35 fight if you think that petty domestic politics are going to be the solution to these authoritarian goals.
Yeah, and I think it was showing very clearly from the Epstein files is there is an Epstein class, and they are the ones that are the problem. It's really not progressives versus moderates or even left versus right at the people level. It is the bigger problem is this class of people who are trying to run everything, trying to take control, consolidate power, allying with the oligarchs in our country. And then there's the rest of us who are trying to fight back against that. And the rest of it, people hate this. This is why the Trump administration is trying to avoid everything about the Epstein files right now. But frankly, other than a few Democrats and people like Ro Khanna and, Tom Massey on the Republican side, a lot of Democrats are kind of avoiding it as well because they're worried about some of their own who might be in those files. I think we have to have accountability across the board. There's going to be a big reset. I think this is going to be the question of our time of, do we hold rich and powerful people accountable when they do heinous crimes, or do we not? And if the answer to that is no, I do think that's an existential threat to our democracy and our way of being, our entire system. We have to have the rule of law for everybody. And this is going to be one of the deciding cases for it.
I saw protests at town halls regarding data centers in Trump country, Oklahoma yesterday. I saw, and frankly, across the country, we're seeing as people want to put either these data centers or frankly, even the ICE detention centers. You start to get a not in my backyard moment, even from kind of the Trumpers. And so you have this, don't do that here, but also the kind of abundance argument also of, why are you putting stuff in here that takes and leaches and destroys when really you could be doing this stuff is build. You know, what I always like to say on the show, what I loved about your campaign is I love campaigns. And to me, you know, one of the things that I think about your campaign is just the word imagine. Like, imagine a world where ... instead of having ICE and Border Patrol masked agents going around torturing and terrorizing individuals, and DOJ destroying and taking away and firing and crushing, those exact same resources were harnessed to build housing and rather than seeing masked agents, we saw new houses developing and services being provided to homeless people, you know, unhoused people. Like, to me, imagine that world. Trump would be super popular, and anyone who does that would be super popular.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically have created a federal jobs program to terrorize people through ICE, right? But what if we use that instead to actually develop things, build things people want? I mean, this is the same thing when it comes to our foreign policy, right? Where we are spending, you know, we had a $900 billion defense budget that just passed a few months ago, and about 115 Democrats voted for that, by the way. And we are spending all this money on dropping bombs in other countries and doing these endless wars. But no one wants that. If you look at the polling, only about 3% of Democrats and only 16% of Republicans want a larger defense budget, because that argument of we could be spending all this money and all these resources developing our own means of making a living, that really works. But, you know, when it comes to AI and the data centers, you're absolutely right. It's a completely bipartisan issue, both on the data centers themselves and the energy they're gobbling up, and how it's, you know, driving up people's home and energy prices. But the larger question here of, you know, right now we have this technology that might be wiping out half of our jobs and basically determining the future of our society. Why should a handful of tech CEOs get to determine that future? Why should they have all that power? Right? And it's a technology that fundamentally was trained off of the sum product of human labor, of the things we produce. That's how these LLMs get trained. So I believe that we should have an ownership stake on it, right? We as a people, democracy, should be able to determine the future of our country, not just a few tech oligarchs. And that is a message that I think the vast majority of people agree with, Democrat and Republican. They do not like the idea of a small cabal of powerful people determining the fates for everybody else.
So when people know about your background, they know about AOC, they know about some of the organizations you've run, but also you were in tech before. I mean, you started a company, Mockingbird. You were one of the first engineers at Stripe. But you didn't fall into this. You didn't go the way of some of the tech bros right now who have used their wealth and their resources to destroy and harm. And so I'm just interested kind of in your reflection on that moment, because you don't have to go the way of these kind of tech bros who, you know, by the way, you know, what do they used to say? Like, yeah, they want to brag that they have FU money or whatever, but they just have to do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. And now their legacies are like hurting people. So, I know, talk to us a little bit about that for people just to know what your background is as well, if they haven't heard your story.
Yeah, you know, I honestly don't understand how you go down that route. I mean, I didn't come from money. I grew up middle class in Texas, going to public schools, and my parents, frankly, grew up quite poor. They were from India, and my dad was a refugee during partition in India, which was a terrible event where they cut the country up along religious lines. So he grew up with his family of 12, this tiny one-bedroom apartment, often having no idea where his next meal would come from. But he came to his country with literally $8 in his pocket, was able to achieve the American dream, you know, got a job and a single income, got me that middle class life. So when I came out of San Francisco, as you mentioned, I worked in Silicon Valley. I was an early engineer at Stripe. I was a second engineer there. And just because I was in the right place at the right time, I ended up making a lot of money from that. And that was a radicalizing experience because I don't come from money. And I got this insight into just how inequality works in our society, where the rich can keep getting richer without ever lifting a finger, while everybody else just struggles to hang on. And yeah, I mean, I worked hard at Stripe. I'm proud of the stuff I did, but I didn't work harder than a teacher or a nurse or the janitors cleaning our offices did every single day. I just hit the startup lottery. And in an economy like that, where either you hit the lottery and you can have it all, or you'll never be able to afford a home or a secure retirement, that's fundamentally broken. That is a broken system. And I believe it's a threat to our entire way of being. If we can't get to a country where 40 honest hours of work a week is able to forge you a life, then our country is doomed. So, that's frankly why I quit the tech industry. I worked with some of the people that are now, in this oligarch class, running companies like OpenAI. I saw their vision of the future, and it's not the vision of the future that I want anything to be a part of. And so I quit and I joined the Bernie campaign in 2016. And I've spent the past 10 years trying to fix this fundamentally broken economy and to put taxes on people like myself, because I think we need to have way higher taxes on the billionaires and the richest in our society.
Where can people learn more about the campaign, and any final words you want to say to our 6 million subscribers out there?
Yeah, please go to my website. It's shoikat.us, SAIKAT.us. We have a massive volunteer grassroots army here that's running the campaign. We've got over 2,000 people volunteering. We're knocking doors all over the city. If you don't live in the district, you can always phone bank. But I just want to say, I know that times seem really dark right now and everything is kind of at a nadir, but there is this huge movement happening. I've been working in this for 10 years. I've worked on a ton of insurgent campaigns, from Bernie to AOC to a bunch of the squad campaigns back in 2018. I have never seen an appetite for change like what I'm seeing today. I believe we can have a movement that completely sweeps in and changes the entire course of the Democratic Party and the entire course of this nation. In fact, that's the only way we get out of this. That's the only way to actually defeat authoritarianism, is if we can prove that democracy can work to improve people's lives. And that's what we're going to do.
Shoikat Chakbati, running for Congress, California's 11th Congressional District. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to that 6 million subscriber mark this week.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get...
Y'all, so as we can see, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of shifts and changes being made. Because there's a saw coming out and they can't run and hide anymore. But we got to get into this next topic, which is very interesting. Apparently, there's something that was happening at Mar-a-Lago. So apparently, an armed man was powwowed and unalived at Mar-a-Lago. The Secret Service, I believe, were the ones to pow and unalive this armed man. So let's go ahead and get into this video. First, we're going to hear some reports from the news station of the actual reporting, and then we'll be hearing from the press conference about all what went on and what information they can give us as of now. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'll meet y'all in the chat.
With the Fox News alert, we can now report per U.S. Secret Service that an armed man in his 20s was shot and killed by U.S. Secret Service agents in the local sheriff's department at Mar-a-Lago after unlawfully entering the secure perimeter. Any minute now, we're expecting a press briefing out of Mar-a-Lago from the FBI, Secret Service, and local officials. So what we understand at the moment is that overnight, around 1:30 in the morning, a 20-year-old man armed with a shotgun tried to scale the north gate of Mar-a-Lago and was shot and killed. That's right. And, the Secret Service spokesman, Anthony Guglielmi, is tweeted this out just moments ago. In it, the details, as you mentioned, Charlie, he says that around 1:30 a.m., in his 20s, was shot by Secret Service and Palm Beach County deputy from the sheriff's office following an unauthorized entry at the secure perimeter at Mar-a-Lago. This was near the North Gate, and they add to it that this individual, whose identity is being withheld pending notification of next of kin, was pronounced deceased. The individual was observed by that North Gate at Mar-a-Lago property carrying what appeared to be a shotgun in a fuel can. As you look on your map here at Mar-a-Lago, at the top of your screen is north, at the bottom of your screen is south.
So this would, of course, be the third attempt that we know of on the life of President Trump. Last night, he was not at Mar-a-Lago. He was at the governor's ball, the governor's formal ball at the White House. But this is incredible news. We're going to have a press conference at 9:30 a.m. We'll obviously be taking that live.
And so the North Gate, we think, would be the one that's right behind on your screen, right behind the little inset box showing the state of Florida would be right there, and that is the the main gate where visitors who are coming to Mar-a-Lago pull in right there before going down and to the covered carriageway where you enter the compound there. And as Rachel points out, this would be the third attempt that we know of that has been thwarted of people trying to do harm. Of course, in one of those cases, actually managing to shoot the president, but in the ear, and the second one being at the golf course down there in Florida. And as we get details, which are just coming in with the press conference, we wait any moment could come from Mar-a-Lago. We at least know from the Secret Service that Secret Service agents and this Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office deputy confronted this man, and shots were fired by law enforcement. During the encounter, no U.S. Secret Service or Sheriff's Office personnel were injured in the incident. There were no Secret Service protectedness present at the location, meaning that there was no one that Secret Service protects. The president, the first lady, and others were at that north gate. It appears that this individual, according to just the details we're getting from the Secret Service in this social media tweet, is that the individual approached the north gate, but not necessarily posing a direct harm to any of the protectees that the Secret Service is sworn to protect there.
He did not breach the gate. Is that how you read it?
We're waiting to get more details on that, but it does appear that the individual was observed by the Secret Service attempting to enter the property, but it appears that the fact that they say he had what appeared to be a shotgun and fuel cans is the really troubling stuff.
Very troubling.
We just had, of course, an individual on trial now for that second attempt on the president's life that set up a sniper's lair. And it's a reminder of what a difficult job it is to actually protect a place like Mar-a-Lago, because, of course, you have US 1 coming down on the east side there between the beach there on the far right on your screen and the compound on the left. And then the US 1 comes down and then curves around, and the south gate being at the bottom of the screen where the Chiron is. And then that road curves around entirely around the bottom of the property and then goes to a bridge that goes back over to West Palm Beach. And of course, Mar-a-Lago, the name meaning from sea to lake, meaning the sea on the right there, all the way to the lake, which is the intercoastal waterway that goes between Palm Beach and West Palm Beach, where all of those bridges connect. So in a weird way, Mar-a-Lago is kind of exposed to the public on three sides, and that presents a particular challenge for Secret Service.
Well, let's bring in Dan Bongino. We have him on the. Oh, he's not up yet. Okay. Sorry, we're working on that.
We'll get Dan here in a minute, and no one knows it better because he's a Secret Service. And as we await a press conference any moment from Mar-a-Lago, we will likely hear that there's an investigation underway that will not only seek to talk about what happened, the details of the incident. Rachel, you asked whether or not he breached it. We'll find out more details, but what we'll ultimately want to learn is what is this individual's background? Yeah. What was the motive for this attack occurring? As you point out, Rachel, the president isn't even there. Did this individual know that the president wasn't there, or was it a case that the individual chose to try and do this because he thought perhaps the security would be lessened because the president, first lady aren't there?
And I've been to Mar-a-Lago, even since the assassination attempt, and the security is pretty significant. I'm not surprised that this person was shot and killed because, as we've been talking about earlier, there's been multiple attempts on this president's life. And so Secret Service and all the security around the president and his family is always on very high alert.
Yeah. And so if the gunman approached that gate, the other problem is, especially with a shotgun and gas cans, the other problem with that is that there's nowhere to park. It's kind of a traffic challenge in addition to being a security challenge. So obviously, if you have gas cans,
and we would assume that they were filled with gasoline, and a shotgun. Having to park the car and get out would be an additional challenge.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and hear a little bit of the press conference. So this is what they said they were able to find and the information that they're able to give out so far about what happened at Mar-a-Lago. So let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of that. And then we'll be moving right along with a few other topics after a quick song break. So let's go ahead and listen to this together, and I'll meet y'all in the chat.
Conference by the Secret Service and the FBI to talk about the armed suspect killed in Mar-a-Lago. Joining us now, Bobby McDonald, retired supervisory special agent of the United States Secret Service. He's here to talk more about that fatal shooting of the armed suspect near Mar-a-Lago earlier today. Thank you very much for being here. What are you hoping to hear from the Secret Service and the FBI when they talk to us, talk to the nation about what happened near the president's home in Florida?
Well, good morning. Nice to be with you. Look, it's going to be very early on in the investigation overnight when this incident happens. We're going to probably hear that the officers involved or the agents involved have been put on administrative leave, as is the regular practice anytime there is a shooting incident. I think we're going to need to hear a few of the nuggets of information as to why this incident happened, how the person was apprehended and then subsequently shot, unfortunately. We're going to have to hear some things here to make sure that all of the protocols were followed, the escalation of violence with respect to taking out an intruder like that. We have to go through certain protocols. We're going to want to hear what type of weapon or instruments and tools that the intruder had. There's a lot going to be going on here. And again, we are very on in the investigation. So
a couple of ground rules before we get going. I'm going to give you all the information that I can give you, I'm allowed to give you. The other two gentlemen with me will give you a brief statement also. After that, we'll ask for a couple questions. We're not going to take a lot, but I want to warn you right now. Make them relevant to exactly what I'm talking about, all right? No what base, because we're not going to answer that. We're going to give you what we know and what we can, all right? So keep that in mind. So you good to go? All right. It was Kirka. He was ordered to drop those two pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene. I'll give you a picture of the shotgun and the gas can to have with you. So that's what we know now. Investigation continues. The FBI is the lead investigation agency on this case, and we will be assisting them in whatever manner they would like. And they will be responsible for answering any other questions at an appropriate time. Agent Skiles, thank you, sir.
Good morning. Again, my name is Brett Skiles. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for the FBI's Miami Field Office. First of all, I'd like to thank the Secret Service and Palm Beach Sheriff's Office for their quick response in this matter and close collaboration. Since this area of the shooting was under Secret Service protection at the time, the FBI is assisting the investigation. Currently, our evidence response team is processing the scene, collecting evidence, and we'll continue to work the scene for as long as it takes. One thing I would ask the public is if you live in the area of the shooting, please check your exterior cameras for last night, early this morning. If you see anything that looks suspicious or out of place, please contact us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or contact the West Palm Beach Sheriff's Office.
More investigation to be done. FBI is the lead agency. We'll be assisting them. And fortunately, nobody was in jeopardy inside because of the quick action that was taken by the deputies and the Secret Service. All right, do we have any relative questions? All right.
Hold up that photo again?
Yeah, we're going to give it to you. All right. Okay, that's it for today. Say that again, ma'am. There's okay.
Was this person known to law enforcement prior to the incident?
Not right now.
Can you clarify where on the perimeter it happened? You mentioned
At
by
the
the
gate.
gate.
Yeah.
At the front gate over there?
Yep. They're the north side.
North side. Were they inside of the gate or no?
He was just inside the inner perimeter. Yes. All right.
Was anyone involved wearing body cameras?
Pardon me.
Was anyone wearing body cameras?
Yes, we always do.
Were any words exchanged? No.
Only words that we said to him was drop the items, which means the gas can and the shotgun. He put the gas can down and pointed the shotgun at the officers.
Was the shotgun loaded? The shotgun.
I don't know.
How many shots were fired?
Don't know that either yet. It's part of the investigation. Okay, folks. Thanks for being here. That's it. Sir.
Thank you.
You all just heard a press conference from authorities in Florida talking about this suspect that they say at 1:30 can and a shotgun. The officers, sheriff, and Secret Service walked up to him, told him to drop the items. He lifted the shotgun, dropped the gas can, and they killed him with that. The FBI is leading the investigation. And at this point, the FBI is also asking people to check their cameras at their home and see if there's anything and call with tips. We have Jake Traylor, a White House. Let's go to Bobby Mack, who we've been talking to. Bobby, when you hear about this person, this suspect being in the interior perimeter at Mar-a-Lago, what does that tell you about the security there?
Well, I think he was just inside the perimeter. Again, it's very difficult in any sense to secure outdoor venues like this or residences. You know, there's just a lot of acreage. There's fences, there's cameras, et cetera. But it's sometimes very easy to get just inside. And obviously when those alarms went off, the officers and agents went to that area, were able to apprehend the individual. And then unfortunately, the shooting incident happened at that point after some verbal, I assume some verbal discussions with the individual to put those items down. So that's a big property. It takes a lot of manpower and assets and personnel to secure that. So I don't think he got as close to the residents as we might think when we hear that. So I'm hoping that it's just inside that gate where he was apprehended and then subsequently, unfortunately, shot.
And I think it's important for our viewers to know that the president is not at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. He's actually been at the White House, where our White House reporter Jake Traylor is right now. If we can bring Jake in. He's actually not in yet. Bobby, we're going to stick with you. But in the wake of the last two attempted assassinations of this president, there were a lot of security changes that were made. There was an entire report and a committee that was tasked with enhancing and ensuring that there was more advanced perimeter and golf course security, and also aerial surveillance and updated technologies, as lawmakers at the time put it, a paradigm shift in the way that the service ultimately views protecting their detailees, specifically this president, who is often on the move, has a lot of different residences, and is a harder to protect target than past presidents. Do you think that some of these changes that have been implemented since December, September 2024 have actually made a difference and potentially led to law enforcement being able to be successful last night in their attempts at neutralizing this suspect?
Yeah, great question. You know, I think that over the last, year and a half now, almost 2 years, a lot of different capabilities have been enhanced. This was an opportunity for the Secret Service over the last 2 years to reset, make sure its priorities were where they needed to be, get some potential funding and manpower, personnel assets in place. They're in the middle of a very large hiring, recruiting situation right now to hopefully bolster their numbers and get the manpower that they need. You know, the Secret Service always was tasked with doing more with less. You never know how much travel the president's going to do or the vice president over the years. So there's a lot of different things that are going into all these things you're talking about here. But hopefully, and I believe they have, the Secret Service has put some very good reset indicators in.
All right, y'all. So that's the updates on that. There's a few more coming out as we speak. And so I'm going to see maybe on the next live or towards the end of this one, perhaps, what new updates and, information has come out. We're going to go ahead and take a quick song break. After this song break, we'll be getting into our next video, and we'll be talking a little bit about Elon Musk and his online meltdown over Jesus. And apparently, Katie Miller is taking a stab at Stephen in a clip. And so we'll get into all of that. Y'all just got to listen to understand what I'm talking about. Really funny, pretty interesting. We'll get into it in just a bit. Let's take this quick song break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, it's a Sunday morning revelation. Gather round, the books are open. It's called the reckoning. Watch it fall! Check the ledger, check the dates, the truth is finally unpaid. Ivana's name is whispering, haunting Donald from the grave. The Epstein vault is cracking, yeah, the seals are getting torn. A legacy of shadows and a storm is being born. Now look at Cannon in the court. She's playing with the flame, trying to delete the data, trying to hide the shame. She's scrubbing out the history, clicking delete fast. But you can't erase the digital when the die is already cast. We see you charge, it's the reckoning. It's coming down on my ship, crumbling through the night. The king is in the counting house, but where is the crime? Justice is a dead, time to pay the price. Everything in the dark is coming to the light. They promised you a golden age, they promised you the moon, but that Trump economy just popped like a balloon. The real data's emerging and the numbers never lie. While the workers at the bottom watch the circle classify. Now the X-Feds are rising, they're trading in the badge, running for the office to stop the grand sabotage. They're the great wet fighters, standing in the bright while the admins in a meltdown, losing every fight. The president is losing it, he's typing in the rage, sending out a fake list, trying to turn the page. Insane on fiction. But the staff is all collapsing, the circle's getting small. A house of cards is leaning, waiting for the fall. Even 44 is talking, yeah, Obama broke the seal, addressing it, videos and keeping it real. Back money on the track, 2020 in the sight. The reckoning is here, and we're heading for the fight. Sunday morning truth coming down, crashing down. No more secrets, party down. No more delete keys. Yes, just the true Sunday service is over. The reckoning has begun. Let it be heard.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get into our next topic, and we'll be talking about Elon Musk and Katie Miller. So in the world of tech and politics, I've had it. If y'all have not checked out their podcast, you really should. They are really good over there. News is reporting on what they call an Elon Musk online meltdown. Musk is reportedly leaning hard into Christian nationalist spaces, sparking a massive debate over his comments on religion. Meanwhile, Katie Miller, the wife of Stephen Miller, made headlines in a recent clip where she seemingly took a stab at her husband's jeans, talking about DNA genes, not his jeans that he wears, joking about the havoc they've wreaked on her and their children. It's a wild look into an inner circle of these MAGA elites, and we just never know what they're going to say or do. But let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of this, y'all, and I will meet y'all over in the chat.
Who canceled USAID, who got the keys to the Treasury, who showed up to the inauguration, all ketamined up, shows up to the Oval Office with a black higher than a kite on drugs because of the cuts that he made, which he is not qualified nor educated enough to do. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. He gets on Twitter, no doubt in a drug-fueled K-hole, and posts the following. I agree with the teachings of Jesus. This is from Elon Musk. I guess that people that follow MAGA and follow these billionaires are just so stupid. It's so unbelievable that people would think that Elon Musk believes in the teachings of Jesus. But then when I think about the base of Donald Trump, their version of Jesus is Trump and Elon Musk. They love the Republican Jesus.
Okay, here's the thing. I grew up going to these churches where they sit around and talk like the version of Jesus that the Bible talks about, that Tallarico was on late night talking about, helping the sick, feeding the poor, being kind to your neighbor, and then walking out and doing everything the opposite because you are entitled. You think you are better than other people. I was that person, so I know that it's real. And the thing about it is, if you really got down to it, the reason people that go to these mega churches because they think they are superior. You're poor, you're a different race, too bad for you because I am better. That's what it boils down to. That's why they have no empathy. And for anybody to sit around and act like, oh, we're the party of family values, we want to do all this for poor people. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It is a lie. It is blasphemy. You are absolutely lying to yourself. And I know that they're lying to themselves because I lied to myself. I did.
I think that MAGA is the party of deadbeat parents. I do. I think it is just like the party of absolute deadbeat parents. And Pumps, I know that you say that you thought you were better than people, but I also think it even goes deeper than that. I think that when you're in a religion where you're constantly told you're born bad and you're not good, then you think the whole population is really bad. It's a really weird message that is unique to the evangelicals, where the only way you can be good is to be saved. And I didn't go to church with my family, but I was invited with friends, and the hellfire damnation of the Southern Baptist Church or evangelical churches that my friends took me to, it wasn't a message of kindness. No, it was Bible thumping, hellfire damnation. It was a lot of rage, a lot of shaming, a lot of fear. You're not good. It was not when I actually was an adult and I read the teachings of the character in the Bible, Jesus Christ. He's a radical empath. He speaks out against the accumulation of wealth. These mega church pastors and even smaller time church pastors are just grifters. They're snake oil salesmen. But here's the thing about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is like he is the immigrant that came and took everybody's jobs. And he's the immigrant that's coming and killing people. And he's the immigrant that's coming in and like completely screwing up the environment. What kills me about MAGA right now is it's like, oh, we love Maha. We're making America healthy again. But then they take the Environmental Protection Agency and turn it into an agency that is going to completely dismantle the environment and kill people at a major scale. And so it's such a pro-death cult, MAGA is. Elon Musk is clearly one of the ringleaders of the pro-death cult, because here's the guy, he says, I believe in the teachings of Jesus, yet he also says empathy is toxic. And then I guess if you're on like his Twitter feed, you just go along with that because you don't critically think. But here's the thing, and I've said this once, I'm going to say it again. One of the worst lies of American culture is that we attribute intelligence to rich people, and they simply have not earned that. All they're good at is exploiting. They're good exploiters. It doesn't mean they're inherently intelligent. Moving along. Okay. Katie Miller is the wife of Stephen Miller, who is referred to as Mr. Prime Minister. Stephen Miller is the complete psychopath who enjoys the recreational cruelty, doesn't mind one bit, that probably prefers it, that the concentration camps that the federal government is funding have horrible conditions. The worse, the better for Stephen Miller. So his wife, Katie Miller, she's a total piece of work, right? So she has this podcast. I believe it's called something like Fireside Chats with Nazis or something like this, which is interesting because Stephen Miller's always quoting Hitler, translated from German to English. You can tell that Hitler is like his total North Star. And Hitler was all about eugenics. So here's Katie Miller on Fireside Chats with Nazis talking to Dr. Oz, who is deep in the middle of the Epstein files, who is a dipshit extraordinaire. Here they are talking about Stephen Miller's genes. Play the clip.
One of the good examples. How is it that baby in your belly right now doesn't get rejected by you? Because that baby has half Stephen's genes.
But you don't think that's partly why women have like giant immunological responses while they're pregnant? This is my own personal theory. Like, why have I been more nauseous this pregnancy? Why have I had more eczema this pregnancy?
Without question.
It's because it's more of my husband's genetic makeup than mine in this baby.
But not more. It's equal.
But
okay, stop. Well. It turns out Stephen Miller's genes are messing with Katie Miller's skin, and she's having all of these problems. Mr. Eugenics, Mr. White Supremacy, Mr. I'm only a second generation American, Mr. My whole family hates my guts, and goes on national television to talk about what a psycho disappointment I am. Turns out your wife is throwing your genes under the bus because she feels like shit and her skin's all fucked up. How's that for irony? I just thought you'd get a big kick out of that. All right, moving along. Randy Fine. So Randy Fine is this like super Jew who is, his number one mission is he doesn't like Muslims. And he's a total Islamophobic, Benjamin Netanyahu thumper. And my theme of this episode is, everybody knows I'm an atheist. It's just religious psychos. There's some goodness about some of the religions. For me, I see more bad than I do good. That's my personal opinion, and probably from the lens of living around white nationalist evangelicals in Oklahoma. But it seems like every religion has the fanatics, and the fanatics are the loudest and the worst. And so here's a video of Randy Fine with just blatant bigotry and Islamophobia. Play the clip.
I know why some of them aren't in it, because they actually want Sharia law. You expect that from Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, for example. Ugh. But the fact of the matter is, this is a clear and present threat to the United States, and we don't have to theorize. We can look at what has happened in the United Kingdom, where their parliament now actually is debating whether cousin marriage should be allowed, because that is Sharia compliant. Ugh. But we've even seen peaks of it over here, the call to prayer being broadcast early in the morning in Manhattan, where
Okay.
All right, y'all. So if y'all want to finish hearing the rest of that conversation, y'all can go over to my favorite ladies now over on I've Had It podcast and listen to the rest of that video. I'll put the link in my description box if you want me to. And you can listen to it to the end. It's getting a little real, but they keep it real over there. It's just, I got to move right along, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get into the next video, which also comes from their podcast as well, which I thought was a really great conversation. Now, this is Pumps. It is having a conversation with the Epstein victims or survivors lawyer, and gives an exclusive on the survivors' next move and the Trump takedown. So let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of that, and then we'll be moving into our final video for the day, which will be some pop culture. We'll be talking about a lot of things that were spoke about when an interview with America's Next Top Model cast and judge. So we'll get into that, Jay Manuel, at the very end. But let's go ahead and listen to this from the Epstein survivors' lawyers. Just
of the Bloom law firm, and has also represented and continues to represent close to a dozen Epstein Maxwell survivors. Welcome, Eric. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I know this is a very busy time for you, and there's a lot of different avenues to pursue. But my first question is, after the hearing with Pam Bondi and how absolutely disrespectful and deplorable she was, how did that leave the victims feeling, or survivors?
Yeah, I'm not even sure I could call that a hearing. I mean, to me, that was just like an extended temper tantrum by Pam Bondi. I don't know how else to describe that. It was so bizarre. And what's so strange about this is, for the past couple months or so, I've been, almost giving them, the Department of Justice, the benefit of the doubt and saying this is probably just pure incompetence. No way they are intending to disrespect the survivors. No way they're just intending to protect the potential co-conspirators and the potential co-abusers. But after that hearing, when Pam Bondi wouldn't even look at them, I mean, not even not apologize. This administration is not a very apology-oriented administration, to say the least, but not even to give them the respect of looking at them in the eye, acknowledging their existence, acknowledging what they've been through. Just a temper tantrum. I mean, just yelling and pointing fingers and insulting. I'm at the point where I have no other reasonable explanation that this is a cover-up. There is zero disregard for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And the only care about from this administration, this Department of Justice, is protecting themselves. I mean, I don't know what other, and protecting their friends. I don't know what other possible conclusion you could come to after viewing that. And for the survivors, it's the same thing. What's so unfortunate about this is something they're used to. Right? They have been wronged. They have been disrespected. They have been exploited. They have been victimized and re-victimized since the 90s. I mean, way back from the, from the Maria Farmer complaint that went to nothing with the FBI, to the Alex Acosta deal that I could speak hours about, how that was a travesty of injustice and allowed Epstein to continue to abuse, to Jeffrey Epstein being able to kill himself while in federal custody somehow. And then, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell being convicted and then being transferred to a minimum security resort after she was given a platform by Todd Blanche to just make things up. So, it's nothing new for them. And it's so profound that no matter how many times they're wronged, how many times they're re-victimized, how many times some of the most powerful people in the country, like Pam Bondi, can disrespect them, they still continue to fight. So they're frustrated, they're angry. But as you've seen, and as I think the public has seen for the last, couple of years or so, the more angry and the more disrespect they get, the stronger they get, and the more they're going to continue to fight.
I'm so glad to hear that, because it's so alarming how disrespectful she was in that hearing. And when they raised their hand, all the people who had not been contacted. And it's my understanding now that other countries, obviously the DOJ, they came out and said, we're done. Hands off, we're done. You have other countries now launching investigation and asking for witnesses to come forward. Do you, as an attorney for these survivors, does that give you some optimism that justice will come? It just won't be from the United States?
It certainly gives me optimism. And I don't want to lose sight of the progress that these survivors have made, even in the United States, right? We're a long way to go, and the way the DOJ has handled this is just atrocious. However, they did get these documents released. It was very clear, and I would have said maybe 5-6 months ago, I would have said, no way. This administration wants this story to go away. They are never going to give in. But because of the fight of the survivors, they convinced Congressmen, they convinced almost the entirety of Congress, almost unanimous. They got the Senate. They even got Trump to sign it. This Epstein Transparency Act. So I don't want to lose sight, because there has been a lot of progress from the prosecutors, but it's clear from the Department of Justice that there's going to be no real criminal liability for the United States. So yes, we are optimistic that we're seeing some of the other, other countries, actually take this seriously, actually take a pro-survivor approach to this, which is in stark contrast to the way the United States has handled it. So yeah, there is some optimism. Of course, myself and my clients will absolutely be, participating in any lawful investigation, any criminal investigation that transpires, whether it's in the United States or abroad. We want justice, and we're not going to stop until we get it.
Let me ask you, how can you put pressure on the Department of Justice moving forward? Because there seems to be, like you said, because of the groundswell of support for releasing the documents, 3 million approximately documents have been released, but you have a whole another 3 million that have yet to be released. They're still covering up perpetrators' names while allowing victims' names to be unredacted. So how do you, as an attorney for the survivors, put pressure on the Department of Justice?
It's a great question. I think the answer is to continue doing what they did and continue doing what everyone has done to get to this point. Remember, there was a strong fight to ever release any of these documents. It took a lot of work. It took a bill to be passed, like an actual bill to go through Congress, to go through the Senate, to get signed by the president, to get these files released. That was a lot of pressure, and that was an enormous feat for the survivors and for the those who have advocated for the survivors. So my answer to that is to continue to do what we've been doing, but amplify it up. Continue to call your congressperson, continue to call your representative, continue to raise the voices of the survivors. Don't let this story go silent. The administration is going to do everything they can do to try to distract, to try to put this story to bed, as they've been trying to do for the last 6 months or so. Don't let it die. Continue to advocate, raise the voices of the survivors. Trust, the survivors, believe women, believe these survivors, and be an advocate for them, because they're trying to drown out their voices. You saw Pam Bondi couldn't even acknowledge their existence. That's sort of a good, almost microcosm for the entire way this administration has treated these victims. Don't let them push them away. Continue to advocate, continue to fight, and continue to do interviews like these. Continue to put advocates for the Epstein survivors and for just justice and common sense justice. Keep amplifying those voices, and I think hopefully that pressure will continue to mount, and we'll make more change, and we'll get true, exposure, accountability, and then ultimately closure for the survivors.
Can you sue the Department of Justice for the failure to prosecute, or what are your remedies against the Department of Justice?
So we're looking into all of those remedies right now, and I've had a lot of meetings internally at my law firm with our clients, and trying to explore every avenue of suing the Department of Justice for what for the catastrophe that this has been, suing district attorney's office, the FBI. The problem is the federal government gets to make the laws as to how the federal government gets sued. And it's not a simple task. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of yellow tape. There's a lot of delays, filing claims. There's a lot of red tape. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to stop it. It's not a deterrence to us. However, I think Congress and the people who are already in power have a quicker and better avenue for that type of thing than we do. Holding contempt hearings, filing lawsuits themselves, getting judges to oversee this. We're going to pursue every single remedy we can, but I think it needs to be a group effort with the survivors' attorneys, and Congress, because the federal government puts a lot of red tape in the way of lay people suing the federal government for, say, failing to prosecute or using their discretion. It's very difficult, and there's a lot of immunity the government has.
What about civil lawsuits against perpetrators?
Absolutely. So that obviously, of course, is something that we are pursuing. We were, of course, part of the civil lawsuits early on against Epstein, against JP Morgan, and we're continuing as more and more information is revealed, continuing to consider and investigate certain lawsuits. Obviously, we are finding out, like I said earlier, there is some optimism here. There has been progress. We are seeing some names. We are seeing names that were previously, secret, revealed as possible co-conspirators, as possible, financiers of Jeffrey Epstein. And, we're investigating to see whether those people knew, whether they should have known what they were financing. It's important to remember that despite what Alex Acosta did in 2008, or what he didn't do, he did make Jeffrey Epstein a registered sex offender. That was public. So I think anyone who after 2008 continued to socialize closely with Jeffrey Epstein, continue to finance him, continue to just associate with him in a very close manner, knew or should have known that they were associating, funding, financing, socializing with a registered sex offender who was continuously surrounded by young girls. So I think those people have a lot of questions to answer. And as more and more names and more information are revealed, we are absolutely investigating, very specific people and looking into potential civil lawsuits.
Okay, I have a question that I've had since this whole, we're going to release the names. When Pam Bondi first came in, she was going to release all it. Then she said, oh, there is none. And then you find out they want to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, but they don't want to interview the victims. What are the victims able to create a list and release a list of perpetrators publicly, like come together, like say, you have a dozen clients. They put, all the names on a list and release that. What are the perils for them in doing that?
Yeah.
And is that something that you would consider?
So again, great question. So we'll start with the perils. The perils are that if they release names accusing them of sex trafficking or sexual abuse or anything related to that, they could very well get sued by those very powerful people. And unfortunately, so in my line of work, what I do as a career is I represent typically women against very powerful alleged sexual abusers, okay, sex traffickers. And sort of the playbook recently for powerful men has just been to sue their accuser into oblivion. Nonstop lawsuits where the court's going to fine them $50,000. Who cares? For a frivolous lawsuit, they're going to continue to do it and do it and do it. And if you give them an inch, they're going to take that inch and they're going to sue. And defamation has sort of been the in trend, if you will, lawsuit to file. I've been sued on behalf of my advocacy for my clients all the time. My clients have been sued. It's very ugly now. We take it, but it's ugly. And I think there's a fear when these women do not have the resources of, say, these very, very, and now we can see how powerful men, it can be intimidating. Now, of course, truth is a defense to defamation, but that doesn't mean you don't have to hire a lawyer. That doesn't mean you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees, and it's not pleasant to be sued. So that's one of the deterrents. The other, not say a deterrent is, it's a fair question, of course, because the women, likely do have this information, but I think the pressure on them to have, the burden on the women to be the ones,
absolutely,
is just so unfair when the DOJ is in possession of these names. It's not as if it's just the survivors who know. Clearly, there's names redacted in very suspicious, very salacious emails. We know the DOJ has basically admitted that they have redacted names of potential co-conspirators. We've seen the names redacted. So it's the burden of the Department of Justice. It's the Department of Justice, right? This is not the Department of defending Trump. This is not the Department of keeping Jeffrey Epstein files secret. This is the Department of Justice. They should be the ones who are advocating for the survivors. They should be the ones who are releasing these names. They should be the ones pursuing justice, not the ones depriving the survivors of justice.
No, I completely agree. It's just another huge burden to put on these survivors. Okay, one last thing. Ghislaine Maxwell, she has that long interview with Todd Blanche.
Yeah.
Transferred to cushy country club Fed.
Yeah.
And then goes into Congress to the Oversight Committee and takes the fifth and says she will only release information with clemency if she is granted clemency.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
I am sick of hearing from Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that Todd Blanche quote unquote interview was a re-victimization of the survivors, giving someone who's been accused of perjury, given someone who is a convicted child sex trafficker, one of the most heinous crimes we have here in the United States, convicted child sex trafficker, convicted of tricking 14-year-old girls to get into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit because she knew that he was going to rape them ultimately. So she is a despicable person, and she did not deserve a platform. She does not even really deserve to be spoken about. I was appalled by that whole thing. And what's even more appalling is that Donald Trump has not ruled it out. You would think any common sense with Donald Trump would be asked, are you considering a clemency or pardon? Any reasonable human being would say, of course not. She's a convicted child sex trafficker. What kind of insane person would consider a pardon for that? So that's even more appalling that it hasn't been ruled out. There's even hope that she felt confident enough that she could even request that. So I guess short answer or long answer to your question is really just sort of appalled by anything that has to do with Ghislaine Maxwell these days. In my opinion, she deserves to be rotting behind bars in a maximum security prison where convicted child sex traffickers belong.
Well, and wasn't she also convicted of perjury?
She was accused of perjury, and then I believe those were dropped because they ended up pursuing the other charges, the more serious charges of child sex trafficking. So they chose not to pursue the perjury charges as well after they convicted her of child sex trafficking. But she has been accused in a court of law of perjury.
Okay, final question. As you move forward with these victims, what would justice look like for them?
Right. So it's really three things, I think. And I think it's a lot, but you can narrow it down to three things. The first is exposure. The number one thing they've been advocating for is exposure of not just Jeffrey Epstein, not a bunch of redacted names, certainly not their own names, because that's basically what the Department of Justice did. But exposure of everyone who facilitated, who enabled, who turned a blind eye, or at worst, co-abused with Jeffrey Epstein. full exposure. Second comes accountability. Now, accountability can take a lot of forms. Of course, there's criminal accountability. That would be ideal. Civil accountability, or even you see some like societal accountability. You have seen, people lose their jobs, people resign, people sell their companies. There's been some real, what I'd call societal accountability. But they're really after criminal and civil liability. Then the third is closure. They'd really like to move on with their lives. As much as they advocate and as much they've been fighting, and they're going to continue to fight to keep this topic, in the news and keep it relevant, to keep more pressure, they would like closure. They'd like to move on for this. They would like to be able to turn on their phones or their TVs and not see Jeffrey Epstein's face or name every single time, and not that have to be their full identity anymore. They'd like closure, but they cannot have closure without accountability and justice. And they can't have the accountability and justice without exposure. So it needs to be all three, and it needs to be in that order: exposure, accountability, and closure. And I think that sums up really what this fight is all about for the survivors.
I agree. And thank you for sharing that. Please share our support with your clients. And as we move forward, obviously, if we'd love to have you back as more things come to light, and best of luck to you in this mission. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. So that was a lot of great information, not just about this case, but in the instance that anybody may be experiencing this themselves and need any type of legal information. So I like to bring those type of videos forward so we can really hear and understand how the legal processes work, what options we have, and how sometimes these cases can go. And so, we stand with survivors over here. We always will be showing support. We do not want to allow this story or anybody else's story that may be similar to be swept under the rug, erased, or ignored, because it deserves the recognition that it needs to have. And so we will continue to do that and talk about these things, even though sometimes it can be very triggering and difficult to talk about and watch and hear. But we're going to take a quick song break, y'all. After the song break, we'll get into our last video for the live, and we'll hear a little bit from Jay Manuel and his claims about Tyra Banks and their time that they spent together on America's Next Top Model. So we'll be right back, y'all. Let me go ahead and play this song, and I'll see y'all in just a bit.
On the bill is looking faded and frayed. The fourth estate is corporate owned and heavily paid. They're trading in the facts for a narrative fabricated. If you leak the truth, you get deleted and degraded. Look, the teleprompter's glowing with the scripted out deception, a digital infection to manipulate perception. They steer the conversation in a singular direction, while the First Amendment's dying with no hope of resurrection. It's a manufactured crisis, yeah, they're selling us the fear, whispering the lies until it's all the people here. They call it fact-checking just to keep the vision blurry, while they bury every whistleblower in a frantic hurry. Silence in the streets, silence in the booth, a total moratorium on anyone with truth. They're tearing out the pages, yeah, they're burning down the fence. A war against the people and against our common sense. It's the sound of the silence, it's heavy and it's cold. It's the sound of the silence, it's heavy and it's cold. Independent outlets, yeah, they're catching all the heat. The ones who skip the press release and actually hit the beat. But the algorithms weaponize, the reach is getting throttled. The spirit of the journalist is suffocated bottle. They shadow ban the brave and they platform the fake. It's a psychological game with the highest of stakes. If you don't toe the line, then they label you a threat, putting filters on your mouth like a suffocating net. They claim they're stopping harm, but they're only stopping thought. Democracy is auctioned and the airwaves have been bought. The gatekeepers are frantic, they're losing their control, so they're trying to put a padlock on the collective soul. They're cutting the wires, they're pulling the plugs, treating the seekers of truth like the thugs. From the boardrooms to the courtrooms, the pressure is rising. The death of the discourse of what they're devising. The spark in the dark is a beautiful thing. Let the bells of the rebels and dissidents ring. the cost is your tongue. The songs of the ancestors are waiting to be sung. They want us quiet, compliant, and staring at the floor while they're locking up the exits and they're bolting every door. But the truth is a frequency they can't fully jam. I'm a man with a mind, I'm not a ghost in their program. No more silence. The loudest thing in the world is the truth they try to hide. Keep the mic on, keep the eyes open. Keep the eye color silent. Keep the eye color silent. Keep the eye color silent. It's the sound of lovers' eyes.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get into our final video of the live. And this is going to be a little bit of pop culture, y'all. So I don't know if y'all have heard about this. I'm pretty sure you have. A lot of people are talking about it already. But there is a documentary out on Netflix about America's Next Top Model, which really floored me because, child, that was my favorite show back in the day. I wanted to be a model. And I even went to, you know, some agencies and stuff like that. But apparently on America's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks and, as we see here, Jay Manuel, there was a lot of things going down on set that was not safe for the models. And they've had a lot to say about it over the years. So let's go ahead and get into it. Jay Manuel has finally revealed the real reason he was fired from America's Next Top Model. In a new exclusive here on Entertainment Tonight, Jay claims that while the show was looking to cut costs, Tyra Banks reportedly refused to take any pay cuts herself. Jay says he tried to leave with grace, but it was leaked to the press that he was fired so it could boost the ratings for the show. However, there is much darker layers to this modeling industry that often gets overlooked. While we be talking about the drama on set, we also have to look at figures like Jean-Luc Brunel. While he wasn't a cast member or connected to America's Next Top Model, Brunel was a massive power player in the modeling world and a notorious close associate of Jeffrey Epstein. As a high-level scout and an agent, Brunel was accused of using his gatekeeper position to funnel aspiring models directly to Epstein. Because America's Next Top Model dealt with the exact same professional circles, agencies like Elite and Next, Brunel's name frequently haunts discussions about the industry and the show portrayed. The Epstein files are full of descriptions of how young, vulnerable women were targeted through a lot of these similar agencies. Not saying America's Next Top Model was, because there is no proof to show that. However, young models and these model scouts were in close proximity to Epstein and working closely with him and for him and bringing girls to him. No contestants from America's Next Top Model have been named in any legal filings. The proximity of these predators to the world, these girls were desperate to enter into a chilling reminder of the darker side of the high fashion dream. And so if y'all have not checked out that documentary on Netflix, you really should watch it. And you can see exactly how things is not always as they seem. What glitters is not always gold. And when you think it's going to be your happily ever after, it may just become your worstest nightmare. But anyway, this is Jay Manuel. And he's going to be speaking on his story and experience being on the show America's Next Top Model. We all know about this show. So let's hear a little bit from him and see what he has to say. I'll meet y'all in the chat.
This docuseries Reality Check, it is lifting the curtain on America's Next Top Model.
It was so huge. 10,000 girls turned out for America's Next Top Model.
That time in television was just crazy.
It can make you or break you.
When they first approached you to be a part of this, did you have any reservations or fears, or was it an immediate yes?
It was an immediate, can we have a long conversation on the phone? That was, and I got on the phone with one of our executive producers, Jason Beekman, and he was just so passionate and really wanting to bring the celebratory vibe to the table, but ultimately saying we want this to be a big discussion. And I said, I hear you, I feel you. How about tea? And I said, if you want an answer right now, it's probably gonna be no. That was my answer. And he said, I'm in New York in 2 weeks. Can we sit down? So we sat down. What was supposed to be an hour tea and talk was 3 hours. I could really feel his energy. I knew Netflix was very interested at this point. Like everything was ripe and ready to go. They needed to know if I was signing on board. And at that time, I said to him, I am going to take a leap of faith because you're the first person that I actually feel wants to have a real discussion. Because in the last 5 years, we were approached probably at least twice a year by major networks or studios saying, we want to do this. And I always got this feeling it was going to be a takedown piece. And I don't think that is the right attitude to have. I don't believe in takedown culture. I don't think the show should be taken down. And I don't think Tyra needs to be vilified at all. So that I finally felt the confidence to step into this. And when Netflix greenlit this right away, Tyra didn't even know about it. I think that's what people don't know, is that Netflix was ready to tell this story with or without her participation. And what was great about that was they assigned the directors, Moore and Daniel, who are known for their journalistic integrity. And I'm a geek, so I was the person who was like, really? This is who's doing it? Because I'm familiar with their work. Yes. And basically they gave us the space that felt like a safe space to just really answer questions and express how we felt. And I'm forever grateful for that.
In the doc, Tyra, she speaks about the challenges that, the criticism, and she essentially kind of blames the viewers.
We kept pushing and we kept creating more and more and more. You guys were demanding it. The viewers wanted more and more and more.
Are the viewers equally to blame for some of these creative choices that were being made?
My honest answer is I believe Tyra believes that statement to be true. When it comes to Tyra taking some form of accountability, genuine accountability around some of the things that went on the show, look, that's up to her. I don't know if she's really ready to go there because in general, Tyra, I know her, and I mean this with just so much love and support because I want her to get there. I think she has a hard time really looking at herself. I just wished Tyra had brought the vulnerable, wounded woman who has a journey to the table, because I know that Tyra. I've had long nights, sleepovers, intimate moments. I know that Tyra. I know those stories. However, watching this documentary, I saw television Tyra. I did not get to see the woman that I know. And I do believe that audiences across the world would have been much more receptive to this woman who has fought the odds in an industry as a Black model, a woman who her own journey and a lot of pain, woman would have related to everyone. And I just wish, I hope there's still a chance that people get to see that.
You and Nigel and Ms. J can all take accountability at different moments throughout the doc of saying either, you did speak up with the switching of the ethnicity shoot, or just in general saying, yeah, that didn't age well. Like, that's not good. She doesn't.
I didn't think it was controversial, but then we put it out there and the world was like, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory. Hindsight is 20/20 for all of us. And I did the best that I could at that time.
Tyra doesn't seem to ever really take any accountability for anything negative that took place on set for the most part. Do you think that that's true or fair for her to not take any responsibility?
First of all, I think viewers, and obviously this doc just hit, and so I'm getting pummeled with statements. And people who don't even know Ken and Tyra as a relationship and how they ultimately bonded as this kind of united front, people are starting to see the two of them are very coordinated, even in this doc with, incredible documentarians working on it. And I mean, I can't say I know for a fact, but I know them very well. The two of them definitely coordinated how they were going to come to this documentary and speak. The episode 2 where Shandy, she's like, oh, first of all, she struggles to remember it, which I find hard to believe because how many times did she bring Shandy on her talk show?
You remember the story with Shandy?
You okay? Cheated on me? Yeah. I'm not head of story. That's Ken Mock.
Yeah, nice try. The other thing I would say is that, she's saying, well, I wasn't involved in story. I'm not here to debate or or again convince anyone of anything or change anyone's mind, but I will say I was there. And Tyra was definitely learning day by day from cycle one from Ken Mock, who has worked in this world, and Tyra was all in. So when it came to that Shandy moment, I was with Tyra. We were in the production office when we found out what was going on at the girl's house. Shandy's having sex in the shower with a guy. I was like, wait, what? Of course they were going to figure out how ultimately they were going to play this on the episode. And I do say in the documentary, there was a different cut of that episode before the network censors clamped down after the Super Bowl incident with Janet Jackson. That episode was recut to a safer version, which aired, which is still heartbreaking to watch.
Just want to let my boyfriend know what happened, but I'm so scared.
Just please tell me what you did.
I was hammered. I think I had 2 bottles of wine by myself. I didn't even feel sex happening. I just knew it was happening. And then I passed out. The next day, I woke up and was like, what the happened last night? And I just sat there and cried. I was blacked out. No one did anything to stop it. And it all got filmed, all of it. Every moment of it.
I was devastated at the time because Shandy was one of my favorites to win. And in the documentary, I love that people are asking this question. The entire documentary doesn't end. It actually opens up a dialogue to many other questions. Shandy says, someone said, hey, how do you feel about the guys coming over? Well, who's someone? Working on that show for 18 cycles, the girls could not dictate the next 5 minutes of their lives. So I can tell you who the someone was. I know who it was, but ultimately it was a producer who said that. So I leave it at that. I considered myself like besties with Tyra. I feel like she knew I'd do anything for her. And I mean, I revered her. It becomes like a relationship.
Tyra was not just in charge of this show and in a sense your boss. You guys were best friends. You guys were bosom buddies. You had sleepovers. You were hanging out in each other's apartments, going over things. So that gets very complicated when your friend is now suddenly your boss.
Even before Top Model started, people were always concerned when they saw that level of closeness that Tyra and I had. And a few people tried to warn me and say, look, I know, and to the world, she's saying you guys are besties, but, just watch yourself. And I early on realized there's a bit of a strange power dynamic here. And I want to honor her as a really close friend, but I don't want to expect too much. And so I lowered my expectations, but wanted to do everything for her. And so the relationship worked in an imbalance for a long time until it stopped working.
Let's talk about you attempting to leave the show. You sent a very well thought out email, and then you basically changed your mind because you expressed fears of being blacklisted within the industry a bit.
I recognized that my role was starting to have limitations. If you really look for it, you can see it on my face. I tortured myself over the decision. It did not come lightly. I knew I was going to exit the show after cycle 8, but I went through the whole cycle. I did my job. Tyra was so happy with everything, and I wanted to leave on the high note. And Tyra and I had made this pact. Let's never talk through our people, lawyers, agents, what have you, always come to me. She was traveling and I couldn't get her on the phone. So I did send her an email after we had wrapped cycle 8, expressing my extreme gratitude for this show, this opportunity. I was now working on other networks and I wanted to kind of grow myself. And someone who used to respond immediately or call me all the time just went silent for 3 days. And the response email I got was 3 words. It just said, I am disappointed. That's it. Never heard from her again. They did screen test several people to take my role. Then I was in St. Lucia 2.5 weeks out of them starting production when I got this urgent call to basically call my attorney. And he said, look, business affairs from the parent network said, we would love it if you could, as a favor, come back and do 1 cycle for us. Now, what's not clear in the documentary is I thought, you know what? I probably should do this. But the problem was I had already committed to another project. I'm supposed to start shooting something else. So my lawyer told them that. They thought I was bluffing. So their business affairs came back. And that's when they said, look, we would probably say it would be hard pressed for us that you would end up working on any of our channels. And we all can look up who the parent network was. And that struck the fear of God in me, because I was in my 30s. My career trajectory was up. And I thought getting blacklisted at that time, again, that word wasn't used, but they basically said it, was death. So I went back out of fear from Cycle 9, and I thought I could get through it. But when I showed up and realized I was going to sit next to Tyra, who would not say a word to me, and she would turn her back to me unless the cameras were on. And the first time they turned the cameras on, I didn't even know what to do.
Now, you stayed until cycle 18. Why continue to do an additional 9 seasons?
The answer really is this. I had already felt the ramifications of saying no. I honestly went back, out of fear of what would happen to me. I really did. And ultimately, today, if I was asked, I would probably not go back, because I realized you can't fix misalignment and you can't cure relationships with that level of fallout. But I was so naive in thinking I could. So I thought if I go back, I'll fix everything. Tyra will be happy with me. And it was the people pleaser in me then.
Then after cycle 18 happens, they decide to fire you, Miss J, and Nigel in one fell swoop with no, as far as it seems, any kind of heads up whatsoever that was happening. How did that impact you?
Honestly, it was somewhat of a relief. I was so glad to be going. Well, I want to clarify this from the doc. Oh, the head of the network asked for you to go. I know the people that were in the room, and I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. He did not say, get rid of A, B, and C. He wanted a reduction in budget. We were the fat on the budget. We were the next highest paid to Tyra.
Bosses have bosses. And the big boss was very clear. You have to let go of this, and this. 3 of my hearts. There are no sacred cows. I cried myself to sleep that night. And the thing is, I don't believe that they knew that it came from above.
Do you believe, though, that there was a chance she could have taken a pay cut to save you guys?
I can tell you from the people, the producers in the room, that Ken and Tyra said both of them will not take pay cuts because they run the show, and we need to find it in the budget. And ultimately it was their directive that we be cut. But to be clear, Tyra thinks that we hold that against her. I would like to clear the air. Honestly, she had to make a business decision. She didn't want to take a pay cut. We were cut. That's her decision. Good for you, Tyra. Honestly, I mean that. To this day, where we take offense was we were offered the opportunity to write a joint press release where we all get a statement and we move on with grace, the way most talent do when they leave a show. And Tyra, who is the queen of spin, who has been let go by major networks and major shows, she jumps ahead of their announcement. She controls her narrative. And in Tyra's world, you don't leave Tyra. Tyra leaves you. She purposely branded us, fired talent. The ratings are down.
The 3 stars of America's Next Top Model were all just fired by Tyra Banks.
Oh my God. There was a leak to Page 6 that said the 3 of us were fired.
That was probably the lowest point for me.
She knew we would wear that. And I think on some level, she was willing to let us, throw us under the bus to be branded that so she could lift her show up. And it's just such a shame that they chose to treat us like that, because once the narrative was out there, there's nothing we could do. We obviously knew the ratings took a crash. It dropped 54% after we left. So much for the sacred cows that were dragging down the show.
Tyra is asked in the doc about her falling out with you and if she would like to talk about it. And she gives a very blasé, nah.
I prefer, yeah.
Her reaction, it made me chuckle. It made me chuckle because she has made a pointed effort to not speak about me in the press. I know for a fact in major network interviews, she goes in with a list of questions, and I am on that she refuses to talk about me or my novel that I wrote a few years ago. And so that's her prerogative. But what's very telling about her reaction is it's the first time I saw her in the doc respond without this prepared answer. We got to see a bit of a break in the personality, Tyra. And, she politely, but you can tell she's annoyed with the director. She politely said, no, I don't want to do that here.
I should call Jay. I don't want to do this here. Yeah, but he's a special man.
Everyone under the sun has asked me if this phone call has happened. We shot this a year ago. My phone number's the same. She knows it. I have not gotten a phone call, but I don't think I will get that phone call, to be honest with you. And I'm not expecting it. I have done so much work in healing. I have found this space ultimately where I am okay with being me today and moving forward. And if I never spoke with Tyra again in this lifetime, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with it. I don't need it. I know people want me to say I missed the friendship. Ultimately, there was a divide and we were moving in separate places. I don't think we'll ever speak again, to be honest with you, but my life is better because of her. And that's what I hold on to.
He was such a visionary, one of the most talented creatives I've ever worked with.
I accept it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. This is part of my journey of who I am sitting here today. So I accept it all. I don't regret any of it. And I'm honestly here because of Tyra, and I will forever stand by that.
All right there. So that was a pretty good interview, I thought. And like I said, if you guys have not had a chance yet to watch the Netflix documentary, you should watch it. It is really pretty interesting. You'll learn a lot more from even just these interviews. But we are going to go ahead and wrap up with today's live. And so I just had a few things that I wanted to say in closing as we wrap up. I want us, I want to leave you with some thoughts on how we handle our own stories. Watching Jay Manuel speak about his time on America's Next Top Model was really a masterclass in being a class act. He was sweet, yet transparent, and most importantly, he spoke his truth without the need to tear anyone else down. Now, we all know there's multiple sides to every story. We also know that in industries like fashion, and even with a lot of the content that I talk about when it comes to politics in Washington, D.C., we have these individuals that have these big egos, and they have pressure or something deeper going on. Some people are just plain difficult to stomach and hard to work with. We've all been there, dealing with personalities that drain us or make our jobs nearly impossible. But here's the thing. We all carry our own traumas and inner demons. Sometimes people make poor choices or act out because of the weight that they're carrying. It doesn't always make them bad people, but it does make the situation tough. Jay showed us that you can acknowledge the difficulty of those diva moments while still choosing to walk in integrity. In our current political climate, things feel so divided and aggressive. Like every headline is a slap in the face or a new meltdown. But if we can take a page maybe out of even Jay's book, maybe we can find a way to stand in our own power with more grace. Because at the end of the day, the truth shall set you free. When you speak your piece with transparency and positivity, you don't have to carry the weight of the drama anymore. Let's choose to be a class act in our own lives today. Let's forgive ourselves for our mistakes and give others room to grow, even the difficult ones. We need more of that energy in our world right now. So thank y'all so much for spending some time with me today. I appreciate each and every one of you in the chat that came and showed up. Don't forget to lead with love, stay informed, and I will see you guys on the next live. per usual, I'm going to go ahead and end it with a bop. Golden out. Bye.
We shall overcome. Through the fire and the rain, we still run. We shall overcome. They can't eclipse the light of the sun. Deep in my heart, I still believe we shall overcome someday. Right. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Just a ticking clock in a dark zip pad. But someday feels like it's slipping away. 2020's fixed and we're back in the fray. Look, it's 2026 and the cycle is vicious. They're erasing the progress, making us suspicious. Rolling back the DII, cutting the light, targeting the cities in the middle of the night. I see the ice ages moving through the Twin Cities. Another life lost, no mercy, no pity. They say merit-based, but we know the code. It's a heavy weight, it's a long dark road. They're taking King's name, but they killing the dream, dismantling the systems, or so it would seem. From the border to the block, the tension is rising, but the spirit of the people, man, is still enterprising. We reclaim the day, we reclaim the street. You can hear the revolution in the pulse of the beat. They want us divided, they want us in fear, but the voice of the warrior is perfectly clear. No queen energy for the ones who oppress. We're standing for the truth, nothing more, nothing less. Whether it's the legal gaps or the climate in crisis, our resilience is the gold, and that's what the price is. We shall overcome. We won't back down. We shall overcome. We hold the ground. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We're still here, 2026, still fighting. Someday is now. Yeah. They try to bury the truth on the paper stacks. What they make still bleeds. And the streets talk back. Turn the volume up. This ain't entertainment. This is evidence. Yeah. This is evidence. 3 million pages that ain't rumor, that's weight. Names in the margin, money still in the fake. Silicone smile, sanitized, private planes, same island, same silence, different last name. Files so thick they can't shred them all. Every no comment, just a crack in the wall. They say conspiracy now it's case numbers. Truth don't age, just waits longer. Gold gates, dark flights, offshore sins. Everybody clean to the paperwork instant. They thought time would erase the stain, but justice patient and the files remain. Receipts on the table, yeah, the lies on trial. Can't outrun truth, only stall it a while. They tried to mute us, tried to draw red lines, but the people woke up. This is headline time. Receipts on the table, hear the system shake. Every locked door tremble when the real ones speak. No feeling of fame, no scripted design. We don't bone the truth, we take on lead. Cuffs on a voice for covering pain. Camera rolling. and still they screaming restrain. Anti-ICE protest, truth in the frame. Better off fear when the message don't tame. So just doing your job till the job hit nerve. Ask court dates for what we observe. First I'm in deep, but a race in the street. When the badge get nervous every time we speak. First say there won't be silence, that's not a quote. That's a warning flare in a sinking boat. Free press ain't free when the cost is jail, but the mic stay lit even when they fail. Rubber keeps on the table, yeah, the lies on trial. Can't outrun truth, only stall it a while. They tried to mute us, tried to draw red lines, but the people woke up to this headline time. Rubber keeps on the table, yeah, the system shake. Every locked door tremble when a real one speak. No filter flavor, no filter chill. Right now, they said God tweeting while the truth gets filmed. Every nigga email us, emails clean. While it's parties, yeah, the timestamp loud. Till it play out, still talking right now. That's the G, pull the chaps, and now I'm on repeat. But the inbox don't lie when the mouth say beat. You can launch your body by the whole square. Still can't outrun questions floating in the air. This ain't cancel culture, this accountability. Same rules for the rich, that's stability. You can't in a bet your way out the best when the receipts got screenshots built to last. MAGA cracking like ice on the weight when loyalty bends and ambition debates. Caught a miscalculation, now watch the divide. Moments see themselves when truth on the body. That lies to the cover blown wide. Now it's knives in the back, cameras on live. You don't lose power overnight, you lose it when the base see daylight. This ain't left for right, it's exposed when the hero myths finally decompose. Politics ain't fake, it's a transaction and a bill comes due with public reaction. Small page of prodigy, 12 street ink. 20 years of damage make a mind ring pink. Ain't no excuse harm, but it explains scars. And broken men still human behind the bars. Fake not healing, cross chair collapse, call it change. Accountability, gotta walk with grace. Or we just feed cycles we claim we hate. Say what you need, but hear this plan. The wounds don't vanish, the spotlight's lit. Only truth and care in a second voice. Or we just want to spill it behind the bird. Seats on the table, history watching now. Every lie so shaky, wanna be with fair pride. No savers, no king, no smoke, no shrine. Just truth in the open under real time light. Receipts on the table, let it echo wide from the streets. They strange, they can't hide. No cousins, it's real down the line. This is trending news. They call it chaos when the truth arrives. But order built on lies was never a lie. So keep the vibes on and keep the cameras rolling. And never apologize for asking questions.